You know, we've all had it drilled into our heads. If you want to get ahead, you've got to work harder than anyone else. Just put in the hours, grind it out, and success is going to find you. But what if that's not the whole story? What if the real key to making progress isn't about working harder at all, but something totally different? Okay, let's get into this.
So, it all really boils down to this simple but honestly game-changing contrast. On one side, you've got the brute force approach, working hard. More time, more effort, just more. And on the other side, working smart. This is all about being strategic, focusing on what's actually effective. And in this explainer, we're going to break down exactly how you make that leap from just pure effort to a really effective strategy.
So let's kick things off with a story that I think is going to feel painfully familiar to a lot of us. It's about getting stuck in what you could call the hard work trap. You know, that cycle where you're giving it absolutely everything you've got, but you're just not getting anywhere. And the trap always starts with this belief that seems so logical, right? The idea that pouring every single ounce of your energy and time into your work is the fastest way to the top. It's this thought that, hey, if I just outwork everybody, I'm guaranteed to win.
But the reality of that mindset, well, it's usually just super frustrating. You end up putting in more and more hours, and all it leads to is pure exhaustion, with no real change in your situation. And then you look around, and you see colleagues who seem to be working less, but are somehow getting way better results. And you feel stuck, just doing the same old tasks, day in, day out.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. When your effort doesn't have any real direction, it doesn't build any momentum. It just becomes this draining cycle that completely burns you out without actually building a better future for yourself. It's all motion with zero progress. So, the big question is, how do you break out of that trap? Well, it all starts with a huge mindset shift. This is the first major turning point. You've got to move from focusing on effort to focusing on strategy. It's about realizing that the real currency of success isn't your time, it's the value you create. And what's so powerful here is how this one little shift just reframes the entire game. We are so often trained to measure how much we contribute by the hours we put in. But what if we started measuring it by the value we create instead? The problems we actually solve, the impact we're making. Because here's the absolute truth. At the end of the day, your boss, your clients, your team, they're not going to remember that you stayed until 10 p.m. What they're going to remember is that you were the one who solved that really tough problem, that you delivered that amazing, game-changing result. That is what leaves a real, lasting impression. Okay, on to our next turning point. This one takes us from being constantly exhausted to a state of strategic energy. And it's about getting your head around what feels like a pretty radical idea in a lot of workplaces. Your personal well-being isn't some luxury, it is a professional asset. I mean, so many of us were being sleep-deprived like it's some kind of badge of honor, right? We think sacrificing rest shows how dedicated we are. But that's step one in a totally flawed process. The really smart move is step two. You have to strategically rest to fully recharge. And why? Because that's what leads to step three. A clear, focused mind that produces work that's light years better than a tired one ever could. Rest isn't being lazy. It's a strategic investment in your own performance. And this leads us to a whole new definition of what success even is. See, true progress isn't just about climbing the career ladder, no matter what it costs you. It's about achieving real growth that doesn't force you to sacrifice your personal balance. It's knowing that a happy, fulfilled life is every bit as valuable as a successful career. And that brings us to our final and, honestly, most powerful turning point, moving away from mindless repetition and towards sustainable growth. This is all about building systems that create real, lasting momentum, so your career doesn't just depend on how hard you can push yourself on any given day. The first key to building that momentum is creating systems. Think about it. People who create automated workflows and processes grow so much faster than people who do everything by hand. Why? Because a good system works for you. It frees up your time and, more importantly, your mental energy to innovate and think about the big picture. Your physical effort has a hard limit, but a good system, it just keeps going. The next essential piece of the puzzle is to constantly be adding new skills. If you just stick to the same old tasks, you're heading for a dead end. Every new skill you learn is like a key that unlocks a brand new door to different opportunities. Working too hard on the same old things actually closes those doors and it stops you from growing. And finally, you have to dare to speak. The world doesn't reward the person who works the hardest in silence until they're completely fried.
It rewards the person who contributes valuable ideas, who speaks up, who shares their insights. Your voice and your ideas. They are some of the most valuable assets you will ever have.
So, when we put all of these turning points together, what do we actually get? We get a complete and total redefinition of success. We arrive at the new reality of what it truly means to work smart.
And the payoff is just huge. You start getting better results, but without that crippling burnout. You free up time for that deep, strategic thinking that actually moves the needle. You're able to build a life that's balanced and genuinely fulfilling, both inside and outside the office. And maybe, most importantly, you create a real foundation for sustainable, long-term growth, not just some short-term burst of activity.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this one question to really think about. After everything we've looked at, from the trap of just working hard to the power of working smart, it's worth asking yourself, what is your true progress?